I worked 2 jobs over Christmas. My dad and sister took a shift in the emergency room. I told my 16-year-old daughter that there was no room for her at the table, so she had to get home by herself and spend Christmas in an empty house. I didn't make a fuss. Did something instead. The next morning, my A letter was left at their door and began to scream on Christmas Eve around 11:45 at night. Dead on my eye put pressure on a man's feet who claimed he was only tired. He was also blue changed like that. So when I saw, my first thought was of Abby's boots by the door. Was bleeding. And then I saw her. She put her coat down on the chair. Her overnight bag was still closed and curled up on the couch in that tight, I didn't sleep in an odd position like she did. I stood there and trusted the furniture. While she waited for reason to set in, was meant to be with my parents. She begged to drive for the overnight tradition herself once when she was first licensed, and she was so proud of herself that she left early to be my husband, and I were both very nice. Worked late shifts, so the plan was made. Until it didn't, Abby, I said in a soft voice. She opened her eyes right away, as if didn't really sleep. So why are you? She slowly sat up and said, "You here?" I blinked and saw that there was room. Where at the table her voice broke. In the middle she tried to hide it. They said that another shrug didn't work. They didn't expect me to be there. Grandma, there were already too many people. She couldn't just pick up another chair at the last minute. She looked stressed. I felt like I was adding to her load. But they were on time, yeah? She opened the door and looked. I felt like I had shown up for the wrong holiday, she said after a pause. There was also not a single bed left. She gave the backup reason that they don't want me to drive back late, but also I didn't have anywhere else to go. So did anyone offer to drive you home? I didn't look at her, but did they at least? I'll let you eat one more time. The table was Grandpa. Lily was packed and sitting in my normal spot, was talking to her like she was a queen. Grandma said. No one looked at me then. It's just a full house this year. Moreover, Aunt Janelle said yes, so I left. Looked at the table and said, I made toast. I turned around and saw a single slice on a paper towel while it's still. Cold and a little half a banana that was bent next to it. I felt something at her Christmas dinner coil in my chest. Not anger, yet just how cold and clear it felt right before I wasn't hungry anyway, she said. She said, not really. That's when her eyes lit up, began to fill up. He fought it, God, She tried to look up, blinking hard and bit her lip. She looked like she could chew her way out of the... They made it seem like I'd feel forced her to whisper like showing up. It was rude to do it after it was planned. And then she cried slowly and quietly like a tap. You can't quite turn off. I was going to, she said, bring a pie. But I thought they already had enough food, I thought. I put my arm around her next to her. The woman leaned in without pause as if she had been holding. After a while, she beat herself up out of anger. I know she wiped her nose on her sleeve because she told me that they don't like you. But I didn't agree. You thought she cut herself off. You were just a kid and not a part of it, she said. They didn't even say it in a mean way. She also said that it was a useful, I felt like I was a folding chair, so they didn't have time for, I didn't go to bed. I went straight to the kitchen and looked. At her bag that was still closed, she had packed it so cared for the sweater my mom chose she liked and brought a small tin of I opened the cookies she made herself. Something wasn't right in the fridge. There, we hadn't thought of a backup plan. Christmas, why do we trust them? That was the part that people couldn't get over. Not the cold toast with cheese or the lack of food, not even the fact that she drove home by herself. They looked her in the dark. The eyes of this sweet, shy, brave girl who came on time with sweets and a smile and tell her there were 28 people inside. There's no room for you. They didn't mean you. They meant mean no space. The next morning, my husband came home. Abby was still sleeping. I told him what he stood there for a long time. What do we do now? He asked. I didn't answer yet, but I already did. I knew because the other shoe is on. You can turn away a cheek or a 16-year kid who only wanted to be. They picked the second option, which I didn't make a scene. I did something. In place of my parents the next morning, they opened the door to find a letter and began crying and began screaming. I don't remember the first time I got called the strange one before I did. I knew what it meant when I was 6 years old. I saw a dead bird and asked if I could take it home. Not to be scary, but break it down. I was interested in how it worked. My mom hit the kitchen counter and said, "Jesus, Kate, what's wrong with you?" My friend asked, Janelle's sister yelled and told, "Hey everyone, I was making a zombie." I got in trouble for scaring her that way. That set the tone for me. I loved anatomy materials. Asked for a microscope for Christmas at dinner. People asked about blood flow. I was the one who raised the school. That was enough for her hand and my family. No one else will call you a show-off. Most didn't finish high school and went to college. I was the only one in school on the first try. One who studied during the ads at all of them. By the time I was 12, my dad had laughed and half-joked that I wasn't. He would then say, "Really, Hizu, to be mine?" I heard him fighting and he would laugh. They thought I was with my mom. He asked her if she had ever cheated on him while she was asleep. He always wondered because I didn't look like any family member I knew. Didn't get much sleep that night and no one asked, still haven't talked about it. By high school, Janelle was very good at her job as the golden child. She was loud and liked by many average in school, but great at making a story out of every failure. She knew how to cry on people who loved her. Q and made sure everyone knew she watch out for me. You strange one who could not handle a joke. She used to tell people should not call me Dr. Freak when I became a doctor because she promoted me. It to Dr. Moneybags, so I can move forward when I got the full ride grant my. The parents were strangely quiet, no party with no hugs, and my mom asked who I was. I thought I'd get married because I don't like women who act smarter than I told her I might get married on my own. They didn't make her laugh, and she didn't get I worked as a waitress while I was in medical school, didn't want to work shifts and came home with bones that hurt and feet that hurt. My family thought I was living at the time, the dream they didn't go back to for years. Sometime after my second internship, I got the first steady job that made me feel like maybe I wasn't killing my husband, and I met while working the night shift, very a sweetheart. If you both feel tired, romantic, and found a place to live, places where we could get more than instant. After the noodles, the call came in. "Could you help me pay my power bill? You co-signed this deal. Can you talk to my friend the doctor about Uncle Pete's back? I did what I could for the most part, lump. Without a doubt when my parents were way too close to retirement age and I stepped in because they had no savings. Bad renters who have never owned a home. No matter what the reason is, credit bad luck. That was the year I bought a simple 2-bedroom house and gave them the keys. I told them it was a gift I'd given them. Take care of the payment. The house is in my name, but they live there like it's their rent included more for electricity. Most of the time, medical stuff I have, I never said no to getting insurance. Janelle, until just a few months ago, Lily, her daughter, was called the one who can do no harm, had been turned into a well-known STEM summer camp. She's got Janelle said it like it was you should tell her that this could change her life. I asked her how much it was, and she said $200. It was worth it, and you of all people, that's which is where I stopped listening. Abby never went to that kind of summer camp, not. She never did it because she couldn't. Asked if she's sensible and practical, I would never ask for that kind of I gave her money, even though she could have. I told Janelle no in a nice but firm way. Said I was already taking care of our parents, mortgage, hospital bills, and sudden needs that she might be able to ask for financial help or a payment plan? Her voice changed. Wow, that's quick. It must be nice to have everything and be so cheap when she's your niece. You're only angry because Lily's last one was really going somewhere. It was funny or would have been if I hadn't done it. I heard my mom say something similar, after a week, when she thought I was done. It sounds like I was holding Lily. Back the same way I always held Janelle back by being the smart one who made, by making everyone else look bad. Being there, I didn't fight it. Didn't. Explain didn't make sense, so I just said no. I really meant that was 3 weeks ago Abby was excited to go to. She said she felt grown up at Christmas dinner. Being told she could drive herself there, she packed a bag for the night and even wrapped small gifts for the cousins who are younger. I told her I'd see her in the morning, and told her to text me when she got there. Everything seemed fine. After hours, I walked through our front door and saw that fine had apparently been called off. Abby looked up from the sofa with a shaky smile that said, "Please, pretend this isn't a disaster." In a very low voice, she told me that Grandma had said, "No space at the table or anywhere else," even though 28 chairs were used to do a math problem. I listened with only one element in mind. Let her words echo around the room, like a bag that fell over. Then I wrapped my arms around her and let the silence fall. As they talked, she fell asleep, putting on the sweater she had chosen. To show them off when the house finally I was calm and sat by myself in the kitchen. As she looked at the spot where her Christmas I played, every dinner should have been, every energy bill is a mortgage payment. Just this once, KD had become they. Had plenty of space for a long time. They would be thankful until they ran out. I had my daughter send the message. That was when the switch turned on. No. No more excuses. Please be more nice. I did not even bother with talks, only how soon we'd decide if I'd act, didn't say much on the drive over. My husband sat next to me, and didn't say a word. Putting my hand lightly on my knee like the grounding wire isn't exactly comfortable, it was enough to have a plain present. That's always there on the morning after Christmas. Strange, fuzzy silence, like the world is still. I was high on sugar and wrapping paper. Just hoped the house wouldn't have anyone in it. It wasn't. There were still 2 more. I knew one of the cars in the garage, as most likely the other one belonged to Janelle. What cousin had stayed up late for we got out and I held the package tight. I hadn't slept the shift, the scene, putting the cold dinner tray on the A counter that hadn't been cleaned yet. It was all humming in the back of my mind. I rang the bell with a brain that was like a blown fuse. I called and knocked again, but no one came. "Nothing, my husband. Let's leave it alone," said softly. I stood there for a second. We walked back toward for longer, then nodded. I carefully tucked the envelope into the car. It wouldn't stay against the door frame. Blow away, I was putting the keys in the ignition side door when I heard the sound of I turned the screen, a stumbling step. My mom walked out wearing one of she always wore those fluffy robes during the holiday season she used to brag about. She bent down to get about 90% off. I took the package, opened it, and began to read. Her face went blank. Pale, she screamed, "Frank! Frank!" The voice broke like a wire. "We're being thrown out, so get out of here!" Dad showed up at the door yesterday's, Janelle asked. What the hell? Still wearing her Christmas clothes, she came after, cradling a mug as if she heard this. It was going to be a nice morning. What was going on? My mom turned around and pointed down. The driveway, like I was a lost animal that just pissed on her porch. "You not thankful little thing," we got in the car, and pulled away before I could catch it didn't matter to me. I knew the hit songs by the time we got home. The phone was already ringing, but I didn't pay attention to it. Then it broke again and again, the 6th time I picked up my mom. "How dare you!" screamed. "Hello!" Without pausing for even a second. "Are you really worried about Abby? You've lost your—" I took my hand off the phone, though. I could still hear my dad yelling in, "If you do this, this is our daughter," he yelled. They didn't ask. What they didn't ask, why they didn't even talk about Abby. They kept calling after I hung up. Janelle began texting. I believe one. The message said, "This is going to damage your image. Think about, oh, honey, my patients don't care about my job. Where my parents live at night, The phone looked like it had been through a breakup. 32 missed calls, 14 texts, 3 ones. that one cousin even had the nerve to leave to message not my place, but this feels, really, you only get one mom. I didn't have one. Pick one to answer in the morning. Someone knocked on the door and I looked up. Of course, through the peephole, my hey mom. She was on my porch during that same soft robe holding the removal letter is now wet and crumpled, as if she had been squeezing it for 2 hours. I opened the door for hours on end, but didn't wait for her and didn't call her in. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm thankful for everything we've done for you. Wait a second. Then I said, you mean the house I bought for? I paid the health insurance bills for you. I set it up because your Medicare didn't cover it. Will you pay for your blood pressure? Medicine? Had a split second of fear, then she, we raised you, he said with straight eyes. We gave you everything, even things you didn't ask for. Let my daughter eat dinner, I told her. Stopped her for a moment, but she got back up. Quick, don't be so serious. We didn't have there were 28 people there. There, I said. Even a neighbor. I didn't send that, she said with her lips pressed together. I added, but if you think Abby is okay with the way you treat her? Oh, for God's sake, she snapped. All of a sudden active again. Stop acting like we are monsters, and you are the one tearing your family apart over the wrong idea, and now you're making threats against your own parents. She held up the letter like it was proof in a trial then, and I swear this part felt. She tore it in half like in a play. Stood there and tore it in half, like that would somehow make the law invalid. She said that process was finished. You'll pay if you want. Us to forgive you. Drop this for Lily's science camp and silly temper fit. She smiled like I didn't say that I solved the whole thing. Anything, because that's when I saw that they weren't paying attention to me. Not at all when I was a kid. Not when I became a doctor, and not now either. I was still the awkward one to them. Girl who is crazy about science and should be thankful. For scraps and stay in her put the girl they didn't like, but never. They really admired me, but thought I wouldn't follow through. But they were wrong, so I allow my mom to leave the porch. Mumbling to herself like the main character in I shut the door on the sad play still and quietly, but in my head my mother is already planning the next step. Tore up the letter of eviction like it was a flyer to clean your gutters right. In front of me, right after accused me of not caring about others, being egotistical, and once she was safe, she had the nerve to smile and say, pay for Lily field trip. And she said, we'll forgive you. Like they were the ones who were hurt. Like not letting my daughter in at Christmas was a break in manners instead of being mean. Later that morning, I met with a lawyer. Set up the house in my name. The debt I'd paid for 7 years, the costs, the dental plan, and the peace and quiet giving up things, he didn't flinch. I imagine you want a legal ban, he said. Like it was the weather, I said yes. Notice was sent out that same week for 60 days, getting a paper-stamped signature, and they couldn't tear it up this time. And I kept paying like it didn't exist. The loan wasn't going to let my give credit. Die just to make a point, but electricity, cable, and everything else are gone. Hospital bills they got after a crash of what no help really looks like. After about 2 weeks, someone knocked on Aunt Elaine, the nice aunt, knocked on my door. I thought she had a tin of a practiced look of worry and cookies. Kate, she said, I need to talk to you. I already knew why she was there, so let her in. We were in the kitchen, and I was making tea. We didn't touch it. It just doesn't work. That sounds like you, she began. There was getting rid of your parents because of a mistake, she added, in a soft voice. I told her about the time she laughed at me badly. The house, the bills on Christmas Eve, how my parents had made room for me for 28 people, together with a friend, and I hadn't talked to 2 cousins in a while. 10 years. But not. Their own child, Aunt Elaine Pauld, said, I didn't know. They didn't tell you that I fixed her. Like someone who heard something they couldn't forget, they left what they had heard 3 days later. I now understand a book that I didn't understand before. A week before the due date, my lawyer, he called and said they hadn't moved at all. Then we move on. I responded. I listed the house that same day, said a fair price, I was not high, and I wasn't trying to squeeze. I only wanted it over a buyer made a deal quickly. Families love that area. They only wanted it to be empty. My agent told me that possession was needed. I told them I wasn't going the day they asked. Were taken away, and the new owners took care of. I heard it through legal means. It wasn't pretty, but what came next wasn't. It was better that Janelle took them in, of course. My sister liked to do that all the time. Dress up as the better daughter. She had talks to cousins like it was a press trip. She's leaving them. Said it all because of one holiday mistake. 3. After a few weeks, she showed up at my door. I can't stand seeing my bloodshot hair in a frizzy bun. Not even a hello, she told me to do it. Mom thinks they're fighting all the time. My dad says the living room is too small. The kids are loud and won't share I'm going crazy in the bathroom, so I leaned on the doorframe with their arms crossed rental. She said you could help, at least that's just enough for a deposit, Kate. You saw her get turned away on Christmas Eve and stood there was your pick, this is mine. She blinked after a week. They turned around and left, and she threw them out too. They ended up in a rental. 2 rooms aren't something to talk about. Heater and a front step that sloped like a shrug. Their pension barely rent was paid and food was eaten. Trips, dinner parties, and cruises. They looked forward to their date. They tried to get the people of the long-term family, said I had cut them off, without telling anyone that I was unstable, that I had always been cold. But by that time, talked. Quietly to the cousins and uncles, I sent them copies of the bills I had paid. Sent the letter of eviction. One cousin was time-stamped and approved. I only answered, wow. Someone else sent her with a thumbs up. The family wasn't there, not in a hurry to save them, and neither was I. After 2 months, Abby and I were sitting on the porch with iced tea and no plans. There was no show. It was just a quiet afternoon. She told me, you know I don't miss them. Didn't either. My phone buzzed for no reason. Number. And I opened it automatically with hope you're happy with what you've accomplished. No pause, no breath, they'll delete it. Probably text again, Abby said in a relaxed way. I told them they always do, but they're not not a problem anymore. And they weren't told her there was no room at the table, and there's no more room in our lives to stop abuse or messing around. After 2 years, they're still in that falling apart. Apartment still blaming everyone but them is doing well. At Abyss. This is what she loves to study now. And what the house sale money paid for it bought her more than just school. Give me a little relief, please. When they call, I don't send money. Don't worry, I looked out for my daughter. I finally picked her. But where did I go? Tell me if it's too far or just right. Below, and let us know if you want more. When you read news like this, don't sign up and press the bell.